Welcome back, everyone. Is Nord Stream 2 pipeline coming back? There are rumors that the gas transit may be revived soon as part of the previously announced plans, initiatives to restart economic cooperation between the United States and Russia. As you can see here, if you're not too familiar, Nord Stream 1 runs from Vyborg, Russia to Lubmin, Germany, and Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline starts in Russia's Ust-Luga and goes all the way to Lubmin as well. Nord Stream 2 was blown up in September of 2022. It has been 3 years. They've gone really fast. However, official investigations of who should be held responsible led nowhere, as one would expect. There have been multiple announcements made and, of course, assumptions made. However, no official statements have been released, despite the fact that Biden notoriously said that he knew how to take care of Nord Stream 2 pipeline if need be.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
And I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
Then, of course, after Nord Stream was blown up, let's not forget this famous masterpiece of a tweet by Poland's Sikorski, who openly praised the United States. He said, "Thank you, USA," and he later deleted that post. President Trump was asked whether he knew who was responsible. He shared his commentary on the destruction of Nord Stream during an interview with Tucker Carlson. He said, quote, "I don't want to get our country into even more trouble, but I can tell you who it was not. It was not Russia," said Trump. According to Germany's Bild, the United States plans to take over the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. The US also plans to, quote, "act as an intermediary and to actually transport Russian gas through the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to Europe." A very interesting article was recently published by Financial Times, and so this is what I want to focus on in this video. Whether or not this information is actually valid and verifiable, that is challenging to know at this point. This is new. However, I would imagine that Nord Stream 2 is a mutually beneficial project that is very promising for all parties involved. For the West, securing access to Russian energy resources is very much needed to potentially restart its manufacturing capacities and to improve its declining economic performance. For Russia, on the other hand, energy has been one of its key sources of revenue. It is a very mutually beneficial deal, which is why it was developed in the first place. Now, according to Financial Times, the person who is involved in reviving the pipeline is named Matthias Warning, who is currently under Western sanctions, according to the article. Previously, he managed Nord Stream 2 parent company. To revive the gas transit, reportedly US investors will be involved. Of course, as we understand very well, this is too early to tell, and for this project to even begin, for the transit to restart, economic and financial sanctions would need to be lifted completely. There are sanctions that were put in place by the United States, and then there are sanctions that were put in place by the EU. And while the United States may be at some point potentially willing to lift these sanctions as part of the negotiations process, for example, it is likely that the EU will continue to hold on to every and any opportunity that it has to prove its own relevance. First, Russian banks would also need to have access to SWIFT to transact with Western institutions. And second, Russian gas company Gazprom and its affiliates would also need to be able to do business without any sanctions and obstacles in their way. So it may be safe to say that, first and foremost, the Ukraine conflict would have to be nearing its final chapter for any of these initiatives to be implemented. Financial Times reports that the European Union learned about the plans to revive Nord Stream 2 weeks ago, and of course, it didn't like it. It disapproved of such initiatives. Here it says senior EU officials became aware of the Nord Stream 2 discussions in recent weeks. Leaders of several European countries are concerned and have discussed the matter. So this never really stops to amaze me. The EU is economically declining, and it has been for a while. It is not a secret. These countries have just committed to continued support to Ukraine during a summit with Zelensky in London, and they committed to increasing military efforts, to increasing their military spending, creating 2 separate funds for defense and infrastructure, and yet they refuse to do what is clearly in their best economic interest. The lack of competence is truly, truly remarkable. One of the reasons why we may be hearing about Nord Stream again is the Trump administration's willingness to end the conflict in Ukraine and to re-establish relations with Russia. Nord Stream is a mutually beneficial project, and if the United States and its investors do work out a deal, the EU will once again likely be on the sidelines. Trump might be approaching reviving the pipeline as a way to use it as a negotiations tactic, although for Russia, that has already established closer trade ties with countries of the global south, this is likely an appealing but no longer a vital project. So to that end, Financial Times writes, ownership of the pipeline could, in theory, give U.S. investors a lever to control Russian gas flow to Europe, which is a key market for U.S. liquefied natural gas exports shipped across the Atlantic in tankers. So if the United States does get involved in reviving the project, it may benefit from it, as Europe would be fully dependent on energy supplies that are controlled either by the United States or by Russia. It is a very interesting scenario, in my opinion, that could potentially put the EU in even more of an unstable position. In Russia, there are no discussions about reopening Nord Stream at this point in time. This is according to the article. Dmitry Peskov, who is the spokesperson, said that he was not aware of any such projects or initiatives. So, very, very interesting new developments, I would say. It certainly makes sense to revive Nord Stream. It guarantees mutual benefits, it guarantees prosperity, and it also guarantees mutual economic interest that could help resolve or prevent conflicts in the future. Hopefully, the European Union and Europe as a whole realizes that it is time to end the conflict and it is time to return back to sanity and to cooperation. Reviving Nord Stream would certainly be a step in the right direction for all parties involved. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to worldaffairsandcontext.com for additional content. Become a subscriber. Please consider supporting my work as well. It means a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care.